In your borderland sense, you will persist in your clearing, as I purpose the configuration of spirits and tempest shield around about.
Well, I will go that way, and I will succeed in the clearing. Love's definition, meaning and clarity. Yeah, the opposite. Absolute.
The actual structure that the Bible and the world would have to overpass and oversee the Revelations, the book of Revelations, entitles the world to act as an incorporate nation, an incorporation that would all summons councils from all worlds, part of the world's powers. The world would work together, and they would use my key role as part of humanity's evolution tool to being a person that would represent the people. I would be raised in the ways of the laws. I would interpret the meanings of the laws, be of the lessons of being taught to interpret, and therefore having the ability to recognize position of being thankful of the teachings, being thankful for the drastic amount of information that would be coming from all parts of the world and all the councils of the world for goodness and the everlasting goodness and feel for truth, to establish a hierarchy that would be based on truth, that would also play part into characteristics and roles inside the Bible that would coincide straightforward to the conquering of the saints, and as well as the King of Saints, who would be me, who would have the role of both being the King of Saints and being a child of a nation, a child of a people, child of the meaning and the incorporation of Son of God, being the Son of creation, or the Son of the Creator, being that in all of us, we all would all play a part in being a creator and having that seniority over futuristic nations that would come out of the light mot and that would come out forward from other points and positions of projection or projects that would come out of our creatability to have new projects happening. So, to bring everybody back to the structure, I was sent from the light mot so that all of humanity could work together and could get all the answers to genocides, get the answers to money, get the answers to working together, get all the answers of truth and faith by having me as a tool to bring about all these councils of people, the bodies of the people, to work together, not only for themselves, but also for the people in the future that would also be coming into an existence. Therefore, the minds of people having this inception about God, they would all have the understanding that through time, of time, and for time, would things happen to where everybody would have that creative vibe of knowing where the placement of themselves fit inside of the portrait of the book of Revelations, and how the saints would all rise up together with the King of Saints, and how in the book of Revelations it talks about a born king, and it talks about how the baby would be a very prominent role and a very prominent position inside of a very drastic position that would have its effect not only locally but universally. So, in part of the victory, all of the negative structures in the Bible would be overridden. Every role of a negative structure would be accounted for as fake. It would all be accounted as let's say, washers, to where the holy and the pure, and in logic and in law, and also in teaching and lessoning, and having as washer as a tool, the people would have the camaraderie, the build. They would have the functions all aligned with their particular placement, with not only my life, but with the laws and the logistics of how things are to be ran, how things are to be conducted in healthy ways, healthy manners, and how everybody would grab the piece of the laws and live by them. So therefore, all of the negative structures in the whole book of the Bible, talking about death, the book of Revelations and the whole of the Bible, from the ending to the beginning, and to the beginning to the end, with the book of Revelations being somewhat of a guide book to all the other books. It would be that all the books of the Bibles and the lessons and the morals and the creeds within the beginning to the ending to the book of Revelations would coincide with the victory of positive structures, healthy living, and the groups and peoples fulfilling all those roles, to where nothing evil
would have its role.
have its placement, be it an endangerment to all the people of the positive structures. So therefore, all the powers in the Bible were more so invested that everyone would work together as saints, and as every power would have their opportunity to have its manifestation, their role and position was to think of these parts. Were to live out these parts, were to work in these structures, work in these fields of life, and to usher in my entrance to life, entrance to the world, entrance to logic, entrance to the victory of righteousness over lawlessness, as everyone else would par into the victory of righteousness over lawlessness, that lawlessness would never have its placement inside of this unity, inside of this peace corps, inside of this trust fund that everybody would be always depositing their works, depositing their fruits, depositing their souls in, for, and into, and about the future. So therefore, the things made of everyone's power and position, it was to always network, and it was always to see that the book of Revelations does not actually have a character role of a bad guy being dominant, and it also has everybody's attention to think and to see that in everybody's accountability of having somewhat kind of a power, it would be to everyone use their positions to have a part of and a role of the revelations. Everybody was to be of the brainstormings and the webs of truth to bring all these pieces together, bringing about the core and evolutionary step ladder that would proceed everybody to the future.
When the trees drew green is heard, the winds blowing in the crystal clear air, the atmosphere, my soul lit back in here.
Therefore, my position and my placement would have its keen toll that me seeing my placement, I would not be endangered. I would not have to worry about any beast. I would not have to worry about any characteristical role of a negative structure having its placement of victory over my placement. So therefore, all of the roles and all of the scripting of the Bible was, in fact, that everyone would unite and come together and create a corporation of unity for laws and to get their characteristical role in their field and in their placement of life that they work in, and a part of sharing the attitudes, a part of sharing the chemistry, a part of sharing that natural vibe of actually knowing structures and knowing alike attitudes that in a meet they would utterly know someone within and yet not know their name. So with all the world having this unified, united, universal council, my existence would have been raised hands-on. It would have been raised with a council of the leaders in the world powers, and it would have been of me playing a role into having healthy laws, healthy thinking, healthy ethics, healthy labor inside of the law. And I would have been a part of like a police task force.
I will assemble and awake the troops in concordance with our allegiance, and we will rally in the 49th Cavalry. The beast and the creatures will bow to you in conquest, and you will forevermore be our line of defiance.
I will surpass in absolute victory.
Of allowing the laws to more so shape and mold the community within in a deep effect, to where I would be of that placement of how the Bible talks about all these roles and it talks about all these powers. Therefore, me being the position of power and me also being the position to where things sway, I would take the stories about the book of Revelation and I would live out into that prominent feature that would have the victory of righteousness over sin. Now, one example by this is that Adam and Eve, and to know the story of Adam and Eve is to know that the rest of their lives were changed and that Adam died. It didn't necessarily say anything about Eve dying, but the main ideal theory in here is that sin came and messed up their lives, and they sinned. I have a complaint that I have been molested, and then that being used, that I am being that I ate the apple. Things that do not play in part of a succession role of a community, and as part of the people, I'm just like, really?
And maintain my rank. When I've seen the rocking in my soul that felt untamable, That's how I knew I was surely back in here. I will clear my name and then go my way.
This is so annoying. Adam and Eve, and then the apple, being told not to eat it or consume, and then being raped.
I will clear my name.
And molested, and then being upon the entitlement that I ate the apple, and by Elijah the Greatest, his existence came and did it. And I was like, in this predicament, in this whole theory, it would show clearly that inside of this skit, or this bribery, that all the accusations of hell, all the accusations of the devil would be defeated, because I conquer over that. What happened was, I took the works of this guy. Actually, he molested me before I even met him, and then had the audacity. That's the thing. The audacity is the
People.
And what happened is that in the audacity of me, like, going through all these humiliating works of sin, I see in there my victory of going through that and just being vindicated. I think it's like ridiculous that it could actually happen, because when I took the works, I thought that being at that time I was miseducated. That's another thing I'm gonna knock off on the community, the world leaders. That's one false move. That's one thing bad I don't like.
And the world would understand the tempest about.
Yes.
Technology, biology.
Yes.
We are insured.
I will clear my name.
And that's another thing that I don't like about being raised up and being somewhat taught or raised in a country, being that I get molested and raped, and then I'm given a muzzle over my mouth
I will clear my name.
to even say all of my rights of being poorly educated, poorly covered over with not education, but of a vindication and a right to not be molested. And also I'm given a poor voice. And I'm just like, on the contrary, the Bible says that I have a very powerful voice. I'm definitely not happy with how I have been raised up and lived, and how I have lived. I basically don't have no male role model in my life whatsoever. I don't have any male role model in my life besides people at, just like singers, or just like people that are like basketball players or football players that I have looked up to, and I have seen that it's so great that they're inside of a sport. But the main focus and the main thing is, I didn't have none of those friends of a role model that I could look up to. And like, I'm just like, it's like so ewing of how I could just think about my placement is with
A lot of people. Like, it is. It's with a lot of people.
and like the way that I have been living. Another way of being wrongly raised was constantly moving and constantly like having to like not know anyone. And in those like roles of like creating a person, like there was so much voids and so much questions and like so much time to where like temptations would be about like to explore things or do things or have an arrogant attitude, or because of like not being
Suppressed.
by actually having
Counsel.
hands-on. It was more like I was abandoned when I was raised, and like being a part of a family where all of the roles seem like they have been occupied. I definitely was like, it's a very lonely road, and it's something that I'm not so happy about. And being raised in such a poor environment where there was no true friends. Like,
I really didn't kind of have no true friends.
I really didn't. It was more like
I was the truest friend.
for all my friends, and I was a person that would always, like, look out for my friends. But it almost seemed as if I had bad friends. Also, the community seemed kind of poor at helping a brother out. There was no roles of a constructed environment. Never having these environments that I was being raised in and growing up, it was so hard to find help. It was so hard to find supplements to being counseled in a productive way. And it was also hard to find a hands-on pastor or a minister that I could study with. One way that I found was because of how I was being raised. I found that like my questions were being ignored because things that were happening drastically in my life were so wrong that when I was being harassed and being audited, I chose to fight back. I chose to make words. I chose to create a system that would organize what's going on. And I chose to show the community that I'm a very intelligent person, but when it comes to disrespecting me, when it comes to having me oppressed and like wrong things happening to me, like being thrown in jail, being assaulted by the police, and also doing some worthy protesting, that I was being followed and I was being harassed and by these auditors that had the audacity to try to humiliate me. And then later on in the road, make me feel insecure about my safety and made me feel like I was going to get murdered or something. So, although that I'm over it, that I'm just like, it would be impossible for me to get murdered because of my awareness of the situation and my prominent role that has so much power that and everything that I was talking about earlier with having all these powers, I found that like it's very ignorant that I have never been in those positions. It's very ignorant that I can't or I couldn't have been in the roles of how I would have all these ministers, I would have all these people that would be a part of my counseling, be a part of a core group, people that I could look up to for answers or help. Or I never had anyone raise me up hands-on to teach me anything about having a healthy mind. Well, I did at school somewhat, and somewhat it was like just like health and stuff, but I'm not gonna get into that too much because the main thing about it is how the churches are talking about Jesus, and like they don't say anything about him being white. Like who I am, it shows in the book of Revelations that all the positive structures, all the structures that make the saints
Say yes.
would be that the Lamb opens up every role in the Bible that he has power into, power effect of, and what he does is that he overcomes. For an example, Elijah the Greatest being for Yeshua, him being the forbidden fruit, that Adam and Eve, myself, hi, my name is Mercedes, that she overcomes, and that I overcome as well.
And the world would understand the tempest about.
Because I was explaining earlier that I was a part of taking the works of me being poorly miseducated, and me being a part of being in alignment of what I could do at that time, that I took the name of Yeshua and I co-insist Yeshua as the second comforter, and that the second comforter was my name. And then I was perceiving as if like this person was following me, saying that I was his God in a way, and then affirming that he was. And then it was all wrong of how I would perceive that he's calling me his God, but yet he's also trying to like murder me or kill me. I'm just like, well, how could you call me your God if I'm perceiving that you're trying to kill me? I'm also perceiving that you're trying to, I was like, are you lying to me? And I was like, in these perceptions of being watched and being harassed. And I even perception the president even auditing me. President Obama. He said that
It's because of my crime.
that I was ruining things. And that's what I don't have respect for. But anyways, bringing you here to the world powers and all these people that have their placement inside of the governments, I want to bring out or up into the topic that what I did was that I went by the role of how I was educated. And in going by those placements of being in alignment, I went in par with being respectful and being humble and taking my placement. So therefore, when I was perceiving that this guy was being hellish to me, this guy was trying to use me as some jealousy, like he was using me and hating me so that he and another guy, Seema Lin, could have like this love portrait.
Come on. That is so, like, awry. That is ignorant. And I was just like,
Look, I ain't trying to like mess things up, but I perceived you saying so much things, and I still have questions to ask you. Like, I still need to meet you. You know what I'm saying? And in perceptions, they were watching me, and they were trying to get hellish with me. Like, they were really trying to incorporate all these structures of imprisoning me inside of these, like, Nazi, racist screams,
crying.
sounding very belligerent, sounding very ignorant, and more so, like, being very ridiculous. They're really ridiculous. Like, it makes you just want to go, oh my gosh, can't believe a person really could do that. Like, in their role and placement of power and position of how I'm saying that everyone was supposed to come together for not, well, it was for me. It really was, but I don't want to say it in the wrong prides or in the wrong aspects, but come together for me, that I would be for everyone else. And I would interpret my position as a
All saints, all unity.
part to where when we have the government established of human hierarchy, it'll be more so about placement of who you are, what your works are in, and what you do. So, therefore, what I was really concerned about was how I could be manipulated. Like, I was like, oh my goodness, these people are bad. And they're doing all this to me and my family. And then what?
I'm being manipulated? Universally? By people?
Well, it seems that all these people in power that have all these powers, or it's like I would perceive one person and then another person and then another person and then they don't like me or haven't liked me and are trying to set me up. I'm just like,
How many people are trying to set me up?
and then when I was perceiving this thing called insanity, it was like they were hosting everyone else to turn me over. And I was perceiving that even girls were rapping and screaming that I was the enemy and that I was the problem. Like, there's this one verse.
I found out he was my problem, so I came out here to solve him.
I was like, songs like those, and then perceptions of these people actually playing a part in going through, of announcing things and perceptions of, one, hating on me, two, being a bully about things, and then three, going forward with the ultimate plans of destruction or ultimate plans of deceiving and partaking this serpent beguiling personification of an incorporation. I'm just like, oh my goodness. So an animal above your own
Kind?
like, people are taking on this animal personification of a serpent being so smart, and then a serpent going by all these rules that also incorporate humanity and humanity's placement inside of this, we are all the world, we are together, to where, like, the role and placement of me being in this placement being hated on, so much covered and so much played its plan to where this is a fifth
structure of a kind that it has taken me until the fifth time to overcome
all these people that have tried to make a white god over the chosen. The book of Revelations talks about do the first works or else I'll come unto you and fight you. It's in, I think it's in chapter 2, Revelations 2. The book of Revelations is a Rubik's to where it shows righteousness reigning over and having that empowerment to forever last, to have its placement of the omnipotencies, and also of how one person could make a change. And, you know, I've seen people say this, one can make a difference. Well, I'm just like, if it's just me versus masses amount of people.
because they wanted a white god.
And then I have heard this too, because
I perceived that people said that it was sexually. I was like, oh my goodness.
so I was chosen, and then people wanted to put a white god over me because they decided that he was cuter, but he was wrong. So they, instead of incorporating all these outlets of help, all these outlets of being there for me, they have made my life in the last 4 Chronicles to where it was insane. Like, it was where he didn't know anything. He was miseducated, like I am now. He was more, like, sad, though. And I was perceiving that he would just sleep on his problems. Being that, him having, like, a sleeping beauty kind of effect. And if you think about the songs, you talk about Samuel Alamai. It has all those rhythms and all those medleys to where it kind of has this, like, it's feeling of feeling graceful that I could come out. And I could actually use because when earlier on in the Tempest Shield, which we are in, and this is the Tempest Shield that I have, which is a tribulation that I have forecasted ever since my life has changed and that I've been audited. Around the times that I've been, I noticed a change and I made videos about it.
Even while I was heavily laden and poverty stricken, I was begging to God for aid and assistance.
I definitely have thought about how it is so unfair, and how when I first decided to do this, I felt so tired. I really felt tired, and I was like, no, but I want to do it, so I'll stay up the extra mile, or I'll do the extra mile just to get to where I need to do and go, because I already know if I don't do it, then it might seem as if I'm getting more lost. No, I didn't want none of that to overshadow me, but I knew when I was talking about the situation, I felt so tired. But I said, no, I don't care. I want to do it. I want to. And just having those perceptions of being so tired, I'm like, there goes Sleeping Beauty. There goes my role and my placement of how I did fall into those placements, to where when I'm perceiving that I would always lean on the everlasting goodness or something of that, or be of the everlasting goodness, to where, like, when the questions of creation came about, when he was tested at time, because when things were ran by time of how now it is, that, like, he was far back, and, like, he didn't even ask none of those questions, because he always thought to give everything to God, but then comes to find out that he is God. He's God. Like, in the insurance of where I am now, of receiving that massively, it has been used that massively people are all against me and oppose me, because mostly I'm part of their leaders, that I'm singled out, and then I could come out of this and Rubik's into my insurance coverages that would say that I was always given this position and power, and that
in the awareness
of finding out how much treachery was done to me, that I could vindicate myself from 4 lifetimes prior, because of the perceptions of saying that I felt so tired when I was thinking about staying on track, when I was saying, oh my gosh, all these perceptions, I'm going to do this, and then when I was thinking about doing it, I felt like tiredness just come up upon me, that kind of like was a little
overwhelming.
But I was just like, I don't care, yo. Ugh. I remember looking like that, just opening my eyes and just being like, having to gain my balance again, get my focus, and then like hardline my mind into being focused and not being tired all the time. So that's definitely a blessing, and it's definitely something to be grateful about. And I would like to give thanks to myself. I would like to give thanks to myself for having the chemistry to want to, the ability to want, to be a part of this all-knowing, be a part of this perseverance, and to fighting away what seems so murderous and massive, that I could be aware. So anyways, y'all, into looking at the retrospects of the Holy Bible and the Revelations, and then the community, and then people having their placements and their parts, the Bible was a scripted thing that everyone of righteousness and all saints would overcome. Everyone that would play part of a Gentile would overcome the basis of the Holy Jerusalem being soiled, being corrupted. So, part of that, I'm looking back at the last 4 paracles, and I'm saying, well, I'm here to vindicate the last 4 paracles, and say that when I was perceiving to persevere, it was very tiring. Like, it was something that I could say copying, and just be like, it really, really did seem overwhelming that I couldn't, like, go on more. But I just had this drive that I really wanted to get out, and I really was feeling uncomfortable. And I was just like, it's not fair that I could be treated like this, and I'm definitely going to be given my right to overcome and surpass, just like the rider on the white horse would have been of doing. And the Lamb opening all the seals, and all of the trumpets sounding, and the book of Revelations taking its part
of a celebration, and instead of a
where it rubrics into insurance of condemnation. Now, everyone looking at my part, it shows that I have the seals of condemning people now. Like, I have the power to do that. I have the power to also call other nations to make the population now 2/3 smaller. Being that 2/3 would come from the light, and it would be a nation that would be brand new. Because it's like an insurance Rubik's that would always guarantee me to be 2/3 bigger. than the population. And it's something that's inside of my insurance to always cover me and to insure me. Because of how I would have this drive to be righteous and sustain that and go by every role of my characteristics. I know it's kind of amazing to look at all these, like, roles of being the Lord, and then, wow, given all this power. And I'm just like, how it was afore, how I was talking about how the world was to come together and raise me, was that all the powers would be distributed in the people that way. And that's the way that all the saints would have lived. And they would always have that key portion inside of their lives to say, okay, now we can move on. Now we can go on to better things. Now we can go on to eternal life. Was through me. Because the Bible says, no one goes to the Father but through Jesus Christ. Through me. All those roles of the positive structures, all would be under and inside to be inducted to my ability of having possession to, for, and about. So the possessions of all the roles of righteousness, all those powers, and everything in them would be under my name. And how it is now, it would be transitioning in these times, and by the timeline, it would be transitioning to go to me, the oldest version of me. So the oldest version of my existence would gain all that power, and I would be more so like a prophet and a son to my oldest existence. But
and the truth
of me being the eldest, then all of my younger existences of the timeline, wherever they are, all throughout, they would all submit to the eldest because he is of righteousness, which is me. And me being the eldest, I would use my part and play my part, or be my part, of being the Father God, as I would be the Father of, or the King of Saints, and the Bible calls me the Father of creation, play my role of being that deity and that person that would be God over everything, and part of taking his role over his own existences, over his own family of people. So therefore, if I was younger and I was not the eldest, then I would submit to the eldest being righteous, and I would follow through without being notified of being in part of a structure that would have me acclaimed as the devil, the dragon, the beast, or the second beast, or the beast that is called to kill the two witnesses. Like I said, in reminder, the two witnesses would be Adam and Eve, who have overcame Elijah the Greatest, the dragon, and all his people, have overcame them, and therefore does not die by the beast, because it's about the structures of righteousness happening. And so all these questions and all these tests about dying and living would pardon. They would all be looked over as we don't give the righteousness and part of a death being okayed to everyone that would be demonstrating and being of art of
yes. So at least we killed you once, or we killed you.
being of those attitudes, because it would not be the placement of that. So therefore, like I said, of how the demonstration of when everybody was supposed to be of a council, and I was supposed to be in the characteristic roles of playing the King of Saints, and everybody else would be the saints, to where we would demonstrate that no role of the evil would survive and be actual truth, to where someone actually died. Everyone would have that understanding that in the insurance, which is now, I wouldn't have to die, and I don't have to die. So I definitely would take that understanding and have everyone pardon that out. Be like, well, if you're a part of the evil that is trying to have me dead, just so it could fulfill some of your evil, wicked ways and desirements, and say that I have to abide by the Bible, then you're wrong. Because it's about overriding all death's negative structures and the negative structures throughout the whole Bible, using the book of Revelations with all of the positive roles of the positive structures working together, and me being in the placement of the King of Saints, having access to all powers that could submit the powers of evil away from their power and duty of having a role in the placement of the judgment of Christ, or the judgment of Jesus, the judgment of God, the Father, the judgment of the everlasting eternal doctrines at that. So everyone in their role of being predators, sexual predators, not only that, and predators also in murder, you will not be rewarded what you will be trying to acquire in your doctrines. So we would be gladly to make you submit all of that into allowing the doctrines of justice, truth, and how I would wage war, and I would be every rider on every horse, and I would be also the lamb that would open up all the scriptures, and I would also play part of being a saint as well. That in that, I would take my role and my placement inside of the insurance and our rubrics to judge all and give wrath accordingly. And if I do, give mercy unto anyone whom I choose and select. So therefore I would be just, and I would do the right thing. And therefore, for the plans of eternal salvation, I would be a part of powering the greatness into having the greatest perspectives lived out and creeds lived out. Because not only would I be with a new nation, if it's entirely true that everyone were playing a part of a massive plan to overthrow me and reject the Bible of the omnipotencies of God, that I would have a nation, or that it would be 2/3 bigger, or making this nation 1/3 smaller, being that 2 times bigger than this nation, would I have another nation succeed, live out happiness, live life, be in the hierarchy of God and goodness, be of saints, be of everything that this generation or this nation could not live out to, or live up to and live out. So I definitely would have the product of the Holy Bible branded within this lifetime. This being an actual 5th life. Oh my gosh, a 5th. Really, 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 really. Would be a part of doing so. So, it really being in par, this is how the system should look, and how the system should be ran, and how the system should be a part of a dynasty of truth, evolution, righteousness, and eternal salvation, and eternal life. So therefore, everyone, a recap over what I've just talked about. The placement of who I am and what I am, which is Adam and Eve, who don't eat the apple, and who is righteous, and who overcomes Elijah the Greatest, and who I overcome all these perceptions of being raped by him, or so. So, also, my placement amongst being a saint and saints, and in the structures of everyone working together as a council, and me being raised was a preference, and was supposed to be lived out, and was supposed to be of the people's omnipotencies to have lived out, have as job, as a works. Another thing would be the would be justice and roles. that would be a part of eternal salvation, restore, preserve, and establish. And then, finally, I would say that all not coming through and being possible, insurance. And why I would have insurance of high clarity, of being insurance to the individual, and then insurance to all those who are righteous and of righteousness. So if it's true that massively people are trying to have a white God over me, then that'll be another reason why I would be God and why they're wrong. And that they're stereotyping and being somewhat of a racist. And also, another thing would be, lastly, inside of my insurance would be how I would Rubik's into succeeding to having everyone look upon what they should have done and what didn't happen and what is happening, which is now the insurance. And why my 4 prior rules would be vindicated because of how I was perceiving that they were. I was very tired upon wanting to get up out of all these structures, and it was very tiring for me to even want to. But by the power of persisting and by the power of doing and sustaining, wanting to get out of misery and also from being murdered, I have been a part of determinations that have brought me out of those structures, negative structures, and have made me override them. So, there goes the daily recap, or the recap, and I hope y'all take that in, and I hope you guys really look at what was supposed to happen and what is happening. Thank you.
God had made man in his image. From light to dark, the origin of man remained within themselves a secret. As man aged forward to destiny. For only the meek who obey the law of God will understand what it means to fellowship with the strong and wise, and to know what inception of God came to be. To serve God is to serve thyself. The measure of will is defined in a man's action. All is written and never hidden in thy soul. Upgrade to thy original form, so that we may see your craft at its best. Laying asleep in my bed, swaying the dreams in your head. Instrument riddles, the whistling dead, arising to the call of war and our stead. Guns and missiles, name all grenades. Is it time to dread? Titans, behold your queens of the dead. Beasts of all kinds rise to devour flesh. And so, shall it begin?
What you have for me?
I've come to my senses.
In accord